The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Jesus said to his disciples, "As the Father loves me, so I also love you. Remain in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and remain in his love. I have told you this, so that my joy may be in you, and your joy might be complete. This is my commandment. Love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. I no longer call you slaves, because a slave does not know what his master is doing. I have called you friends, because I have told you everything I have heard from my Father. It was not you who chose me, but I chose you and appointed you to go and bear fruit that will remain, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give you. This I command you. Love one another." The Gospel of the Lord. These words of the Gospel of the Savior. You just heard Jesus say, "As the Father loves me, so I also love you. Remain in my love." Just think about what Jesus just said. You are loved as much as the Father loves Jesus. That's infinitely beyond what you can even comprehend. That's how much you are loved. And he closes the passage by saying, "This I command you, love one another." In one form or another in the Gospels, Jesus tells us to love one another. In fact, 11 times in the Gospel, Jesus commands us to love our neighbors. St. Paul also includes this commandment in his writings, and it's repeated many times throughout the Bible. In our first reading today, Peter arrives at the house of Cornelius, and Cornelius falls at the feet of Peter and pays him homage. And Peter simply says, "Get up. I myself am also a human." Peter does not think of himself as better than anyone else. Love doesn't do that. No, Peter just is not inflating himself, which he easily could have. He took the lower position as Jesus would. And the deep faith of Cornelius is so beautiful too. Cornelius is intentional about his love, and he sent his servants to go get Peter and then bring him to his home. Cornelius had certainly heard about Peter, and just think about it, he probably knew of his past and his involvement with Jesus. And here's old Cornelius, and Cornelius is just a Gentile. In fact, he's probably had a little bit of fear and trepidation, if you think about it, as a Gentile believer. I mean, he didn't know if Peter would probably accept him as a Gentile, but we see that Peter did, didn't he? He accepted Cornelius, and Peter rightly then directs the praise to God, the Father. Then we have the passage from the first letter of John in our second epistle. And that couldn't be more more specific about our call to love one another. John opens with, "Beloved, let us love one another because love is of God. Everyone who is begotten by God knows God. Whoever is without love does not know God, for God is love." These are the two come from, love comes from two Greek words. And originally that comes from agapios, which is a verb, and agape, which is a noun. So this love is not just a romantic love we're talking about. It certainly does mean affection, yes, but it also means benevolence and concern for the welfare of the one loved. It's deliberate rather than emotional and impulsive. Agape love involves action, which is the type of love we as Christians are called to take. St. John also wants us to know and experience God, which is required in order to love one another with our actions. He says this is definitely not going to be an easy type of love. And we can only accomplish it by receiving God's grace and by growing in our knowledge of God. We have to know God. And we grow in His grace, and we receive the grace, and then we give it away. We must constantly strive for growth in our knowledge, in our relationship with Jesus. And again, Jesus sums it up for us. He says that as the Father loves me, so I also love you. And Jesus showed His love for His disciples. How? How did He show that love? Well, He taught them. He protected them. Jesus guided them and sacrificially served them. God the Father did all that for Jesus too. And Jesus even loves us, even to the point of death on a cross. The most perfect, beautiful description of love is right in front of your eyes in the cross. Totally other-centered. The highest form of love right before our eyes. This is the love that's even greater than a mother's love for her child. Our scriptures tell us that. It's higher than a spousal love. And yet, we have the awesome privilege here tonight to honor and to receive that love right here and now at this Mass. And after this Mass, if you choose to stay for an hour to spend time with Jesus, you will be right at His feet in Eucharistic adoration. So let us come to Him and be filled with His presence, His power, His wisdom, His truth, holiness, so that we can go out and to love like Jesus. As the Father loves me, so I also love you. Remain in my love. That just really says it all, doesn't it? Help us, Lord, to love like you.